We call the meeting to order. I'm going to read the usual announcement. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner. Join the Zoom meeting at the address given in the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we will post on the Westborough Public Library website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And this meeting is being recorded. So, are there any members of the public here who wish to speak? I'm not seeing anyone on the attendee list, and I don't see anyone on the screen, so I think there's none. So next item we have is the approval of minutes. We have minutes from the October 29th meeting that Mary distributed, I believe, last night, a couple of days ago. Anyway, we have them. Any comments on those minutes? Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
A second.
Second.
Okay, I heard a second. Okay, so let me go through Lynn. I saw a thumbs up there. Okay, Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Kate?
Coraggio, yes.
Bob?
Petroselli, yes.
Pete?
Dunbeck, yes.
Mary?
Johnson, yes.
And Sean?
Neo, yes.
Okay, so we've unanimously approved the minutes. One thing you may have, in regards to the minutes, one thing you may have noticed on the agenda is we've put information on the agenda about where the agendas, meeting recordings, and meeting minutes can be found. So there's links to all of those things. I've had several members of the public ask me, well, where are the minutes or where are the, or whatever. And I didn't always know. I don't usually look for them because I was there. But I think this will give us an answer to all that, and we can just say it's on the minutes. And it'll help transparency and make our lives a little bit easier. So I'd appreciate if people would try those. I took a look at them today, and my only issue was the Westborough TV things are on YouTube, and it's not easy to find necessarily the one individual meeting that you want to see in the YouTube
And
app.
I've asked Aiden to put together a playlist for us so that
Oh,
they'll
that would
all
be
in
perfect.
one
Thank you.
place. Okay.
Okay. Anything else on minutes? Not seeing anything. Okay. Overall project status update. I know you all should have gotten the 75% DD cost estimate that's been reconciled and is up to date, along with that was from LPAA, and the total project cost from Vertex. Any comments or questions about those? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned to Brian a couple comments I had, so
Yeah,
I figure he might present.
yeah. Thank you, Walter. And if I may add, just to show the screen
Sure,
and go
yep.
through a couple comments that I had with Walter. I got Michael with me, who's going to be doing the screen sharing with me. Mike, if you could just pull up the PDF of the 4 columns on how we've gotten on the kind of evolution of our total project budget that we have here. Just a few notes that I did put in the email. We're right on target on where we've been tracking for the past year upon the other estimates that we've had. You can see that the estimate construction value had gone down slightly. However, that it went down based upon a lot of the value engineering that we're already incorporating into the design now at this point. I did not add any of the book drop alternates on there. Both estimators have given us 3 different options. I think that's something that maybe LPA can show the committee of the 3 options that were shown and the associated costs that come with that, and whether or not that's something that we should be implementing as an alternate, or whether we take multiple options as alternates to take those to bid day. There is one item I wanted to bring up that I didn't put on as a bullet point on here, is that our total project budget is also assuming that we're using all of the money from our original appropriation for design work. The $1.178 million that we went to annual town meeting in 2024,
Mhm.
there is unspent costs. And Mike, if you wouldn't mind switching to the other PDF, this is a snapshot of our vendor invoice package that we give to the town every month for both vendors right now and would carry throughout construction. And it gives a good snapshot of where we are on spent costs, committed costs, and what's left to spend and what's not committed. I'll let them get down to that point. Here it is right here. If you can zoom out, the most important cell is the bottom right cell, and that is money that has not been committed to a vendor and has not yet been spent. And a lot of that has to deal with some of the soft costs that we were holding during our first ask at annual town meeting 2024. We will be taking a deep dive into this as we get closer to going out to bid and refining our total project budget so that our ask at 2025 annual town meeting is accurate, and it may be able to be reduced based upon monies that we haven't had to spend during this design phase. I don't want to be overly, we'll call it liberal in taking money out of here, as we still want to make sure we're accounting for contingencies and possible other things that we haven't accounted for on the soft cost end. But I also want to make sure that we're not double dipping and asking for money that we've already asked for to make sure that we're being as tight as possible on our budget. So currently I'm showing that we have about $250,000 that have yet to be committed on the design portion of this project. There may be some as we get closer to town meeting. But that would be something that we would be taking a harder look at and offsetting with our total project budget when it comes to what the overall ask is going to be at the next town meeting.
So if we, and I know we can't do this, if this were the final costs, we could take that 250 odd thousand out of the ask at ATM 2024 and apply it and use that to reduce the whole overall budget.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't want to promise the full 250,
Right.
but that would be the process on which we would do that and make sure, but we would go line by line in our total project budget, making sure that we're comfortable with the numbers that we're holding for numbers that we maybe not have an exact quote for. For example, our commissioning agent or our testing agent that we've yet to sign on board for, we have a placeholder for those numbers. We will make sure that we're comfortable with that before going to town meeting. But we also want to make sure if we already had something squared away for it, that we're
Right.
not asking for it again.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at this briefly and had a couple of comments also, which I didn't get a chance to bring up with you offline, Brian.
Sure.
One is that I noticed you've pulled some money out of the temporary library fit out from 750,000 to 675,000.
Correct.
If I recall correctly, the lease for that, the lease proposal was like 660,000 or maybe 606,000. That doesn't leave a whole lot of money for fit out. So
That's correct. And that's what I wanted to bring up today as well, is that this does not include, and this assumes that the lease that was provided on the RFP response would be move-in ready and very minimal work would need to be done on this fit out. I highlighted that to make sure that it's something that if there was to be fit out or work to be provided by the town for a temporary facility, that either we would need to account for it in another budget line item or use some of the owner's project contingency that we have for our design funds here in this. You can see here on our current budget, some of that $250,000 in order to outfit and get the space ready that we would be moving into.
Okay. The other thing that confused me is looking at the upper part of the spreadsheet, the grand total went from 9.3 million to 9.6 million,
Yep.
roughly. But we've driven the construction cost down by 200,000 odd. So I'm not sure why that went up.
It was because I was not including in the construction costs the over $500,000 of value engineering that was in the original. If you can see about in the third column, There are two line items for value engineering as well as the red slate composite that
Right.
total roughly about $520,000. What I did is I pretty much I deleted those line items because we can't account for them anymore as they're part of the design, the bid documents right now.
Right.
So those have been absorbed now into the construction costs and now considered included in the bid documents.
So why did the construction subtotal not go down by that roughly five? It went down by about 250 instead of about 500.
Yep, and so that's something that we will compare what we had from our DD estimate to our CD on where we had
Okay.
kind of escalation in costs, whether it was in some of the MEP trades and other line items that were having increases in costs.
Okay, so that's right. So the 955, the 9.5 million is from the cost estimators.
That's correct. And what that
I
is
see. Okay.
it's actually from one of the estimators. It's the it's the highest of the two after the reconciliation. So
Right.
we kept the most conservative number here to show what our most conservative budget would be.
Okay. Okay, I get
Michael,
it.
do you
I
think
hadn't
we could
clicked on that.
go back to the other sheet? That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the biggest variable that we have here in our budget is obviously the temp facility and the quarters and how that's going to be handled. I know it's a line item here on the agenda to speak about, but as we get closer here towards the end of the year and LPA can speak to their schedule about going out to bid, it's going to be imperative to make our decision and determine whether or not any outfit or any work that would need to be done or help from the design team on a temporary basis. We're going to have to make those decisions in the near future.
Okay. Yep. We're coming up to that soon.
Cool.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts about the cost estimate? Okay.
Yeah, I had one, Ed, and just I talked about this to Brian, but right now if you go to the bottom of the sheet, the number where it says ask at ATM 2024, there should really be another line there, which is ask at ATM 2023, which was 360,459 if you want to use total project costs. But that's how we got into discussion of, well, if we have extra money that can come out of our ask, but it doesn't truly reflect the grand total of the project unless you include the design ask, which he did in that second sheet you showed. It was 1.5 something.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
1.526591. So.
And Walter, I had not adjusted this sheet yet.
That's okay.
I was trying to go back through some communication that I had with Shab months ago regarding how the city or how the town was handling what was a separate project or what was inclusive of the entire total project budget. And I wanted to make sure that I had that correct before updating the sheet.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's probably important to get everything that we've put into this project into it.
Yep.
Which includes the 2023 ask. Thank you, Walter. That's a good catch. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments?
No.
Okay.
It looks like we're kind of tracking where we thought. So
Yeah. Any warning flags up for having the bid documents ready on time?
No, we're still tracking releasing the start of the new year.
Great. Okay, anything else on the overall project status? Let's go on to temporary space. And I'll start with lead out with an update on that. Kate and I had a discussion with Jennifer, is it Williams from the rec department, Christy Williams and Sean about the temporary space. And my summary is the town clearly would rather not spend $660,000 on rent. So there's a good bit of pressure to find a solution. In that regard, the select board is going to be discussing town building projects tonight at their meeting. That's at 8:30 on the agenda. Agendas can be wrong, as you know, but I know several trustees plan to be there, and if any of y'all are interested, you should come. The other point is which is Kate, myself, and Jennifer from the rec department and some other interested parties will be doing a walkthrough of the community center facility. It's not a community center yet, to get a better idea of what's there and what we can do there. But I think, Brian, you were asking for decisions soon. I think after this meeting, the select board meeting tonight, we'll have a lot more information and be able to actually make a decision.
Thank you. I think my only concern would be is if the direction is to use a different property, is just the condition of it and making sure that it works for Kate and her staff. And if there are things that need to be done, that we make sure that we account for them leading up to town meeting, and making sure that, if a contract is signed with a contractor, we have our ducks in a row about the moving and getting that done in a timely manner.
Okay. We're inviting Fred Leonardo and I believe somebody else from the building department on the walkthrough. And I'm sure we won't get them to commit until they do a real inspection, but we'll get a good feel for what they think. So, any thoughts or comments there?
I'd just like to chime in that I think with the mood of the town lately, I think it would be beneficial to our project if we can make an acceptable space there and reduce our overall costs thereby. And I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. Use the town's resources effectively, and it show that the community center is also doing so. I think it would be a good thing all around. And like I said, I think there's a lot of pressure on the town to do that.
I just had a quick question. I agree too with what Walter had just mentioned, that we have to do our due diligence with the town space. But just a quick question. I know when the RFP on maybe if it's a private location or retail space, we said it was 675,000 plus 250,000 moving. And that didn't include like rental costs. If they did go to the BSC or the rec department, would the library have to build into its budget whatever temporary fit out would be there? Or is it something, because it's a town owned, it'd be out of the town's budget? Or would they be holding our feet to the fire to say, no, the library has to do the fit out because it's a library fit out? I just didn't know where those funds are coming from.
Let me jump in on that with my opinion. I don't think we've had a definitive answer on that. Our intent would be to make pretty much temporary stuff, partitions and cubicles rather than permanent walls, and move it, and bookshelves and things like that. And any temporary stuff, I think, like that, I think would be on us. Now, if time permits and we can work out something with the rec department where we can build a permanent structure that would later be usable by the rec department, so walls or bathrooms or whatever, then we would have to have a cost discussion, it seems to me. But we're only planning for 2 months to do that fit out. So that puts a very tight time constraint on anything permanent. Pete, I see you have your hand up.
On the temporary space, are you anticipating it being the first floor space behind the senior center or on the second floor? And is the rec department actually the decision maker on the first floor?
The decision maker, I believe, is the select board. And the location is not yet determined. We do know the second floor is pretty small and hard to access, so we're looking for somewhere on the first floor. One possible thing that may come out of the select board meeting would be a delay in actually build out of the community center. And I don't want to advocate for that, but I think we're all aware that it'd be kind of nice from this perspective of the library.
I think what you mean, the senior center portion.
Senior
of the
center,
community
pardon
center.
me, yes. Yeah, senior center.
I have a further comment. I think it's along the lines of what Bob is asking, is that I think that the town should be looking for synergies where any investment in that space is permanent value and not temporary value. So anything
Anything we
ramp
can
or
find that,
doorway or
yeah,
security or whatever, lighting should all be designed with permanent use in mind.
absolutely. And our intent is to coordinate pretty closely, assuming that we do wind up in there, our intent is to coordinate closely with the rec department and as much as we can, just build it once. So,
I guess the thing I'm reacting to on the rec department, are you working with the building department, Jim Stewart?
we haven't hit any specific individuals in the building department yet. I know Fred Leonardo is in there. Kate, is Bill Stewart one of the?
DPW who manages the buildings. So
Oh, okay.
the DPW is responsible for the municipal buildings, and Jim Stewart is the
Okay.
responsible party there. You refer to the rec department, makes me think that you need Jim Stewart, I think, and Chris
Okay.
Payant involved.
Okay. Kate, could you reach out to Jim Stewart? Just make them
I can
aware of
make
the
an
situation.
introduction or whatever.
That would be great.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think, Ed, I'm not positive, but I think our walkthrough also involves looking at the space in terms of occupancy and what we might need to do in terms of police, fire, all the coding
Right.
there as well. So I'm making an assumption that they'll be pulled in, but if not, we can definitely set that up.
Right. I guess one way to think about it, if I'm understanding you correctly, Pete, is that the building department is the landlord and the rec department is the tenant.
Well, the select board is
Yeah, okay.
the landlord.
Okay, so pardon me, the select board is the landlord, the building department is the property manager.
In the community center, for example, the HVAC systems are getting upgraded.
Yeah,
And Jim Stewart is the lead person on that DPW side. And we're doing insulation in the Forbes Municipal Building, and Jim Stewart's the contact there. So I think he would be an important person
Okay.
to be in
great.
the discussion.
Great.
I'll make the introduction.
That would be great, thank you. And so, yeah, we're definitely doing the walkthrough, and we'll need to get specialists in there. Eric, I'll probably ask your team to join at some point, but I don't know if this December 3rd one is the right point yet. What do you think?
Yeah, we'd be happy to take a look with you. Ed.
Okay.
Just let us know when.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we should probably check. Sean, go ahead.
Oh, no, finish your thought there, Ed.
No, I was going to, and maybe I should ask you this, but would anyone object to LPA people being on the tour on December 3rd? I don't want to, have a giant mob of people trailing through the building, but at some point they're going to need to be.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with involving more folks.
Okay.
I think, yeah, just, sort of run the list past who's ever coordinating the visit. If it's Fred, then that makes sense, but I don't think he'd have any issue with that.
Okay, great.
Building's open, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say we're talking about all three projects tonight. This project, the community center, and the golf club building project, and discussing timelines for each of them tonight. I'm just a single individual on the select board, but I feel like we did have a good call the other day in talking about the potential to use the community center as a temporary space, and interested in getting everybody's thoughts as they go through the space.
Great. Kate, did I miss anything from that meeting from your perspective? Great.
No, I think it was really good.
Okay. Anything else on temporary space? Okay. Next one is identification of library relocation services. And I asked Kate and Brian to get together and start finding people to do that. Kate or Brian, does one of y'all want to give an update?
Yes, I can, and then Kate, you can speak. We we're drafting a RFP for moving relocation services. That is ongoing right now. We will send that out to the committee and to Kate to review once we're done, kind of populating the template that we have. And then I have a list of vendors that we've used in previous projects. And I know Maureen actually gave it I believe she had a recommendation as well on one of the relocation firms, that we would be reaching out with that RFP, get these apples to apples so that we can put in a price to our budget, but also be ready to sign a purchase order with an affirmative vote at town meeting.
Okay. In the RFP, are we envisioning the relocation service, whoever it might be, actually helping with fit out, or are they just going to be moving the books?
So my opinion, and maybe someone else could tell me differently, but usually with these types of services, there would be the relocation of books, breaking down of any shelving or furniture that also needs to go, and then placing it where it needs to go. They're not too much in actual construction or outfitting of areas, more or less just the grunt work of picking up and moving it to another location and potentially storing it if one of the facilities does not have the square footage we needed.
Okay. We're going to need to think fairly quickly about designing the fit out as soon as we have the space identified.
That's
what's
correct.
going to happen there. So, and the cost for that. Okay. Anything else on the relocation? Okay. Other project updates. I have an update on.
Sorry,
Go ahead,
Ed,
sorry.
one question was, I got the impression by somebody saying that we actually did get a bid back this time, or didn't we?
For the rental space,
Yeah.
we got a bid from I forget it's the people who own all the business real estate around here. I forget their name. I'm exaggerating. It's on 10 Washington Street, which is on the other side of 495.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Sean.
Ruth Capital.
God, thank you. Yeah. And it's 18 or 20,000 square feet, plenty of room, probably a pretty good space. I don't think we've done a tour. And if I recall correctly, the cost of the lease for 18 months would be something like $660,000. So it sounds like it's probably a nice space. We haven't done a walkthrough as far as we know, but it's in the wrong place to my mind, and it's expensive. So definitely not a slam dunk to take that off.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Parking, so other project updates. I had parking. We've discussed needs with regard to the Congregational Church with Christy, and she's going to go back to the church and try and get an agreement signed by the time we need it. It hasn't happened yet, but that's very much in their court. Other updates. Christine, I think you had something.
Well, I had a couple of items. One was, can you hear me okay first?
Yes.
Okay, great. Having some trouble with my tech lately. So one of them was just to share with everyone in case you didn't see it, Tony had generated some book drop options, and we did receive those costs back from the, it's not technically on your agenda, Ed, but we did receive the costs back from the estimators. If it would be helpful, Tony and I can share what those options were so that everyone's on the same page.
That would be great.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Tony, feel free to chime in. I know you're really close to this, but I'll just start giving the rundown here. This is called option one. This is what we had been discussing at the last LBC meeting. The ideal situation, which would be to create a new at-grade through-wall bookshop utilizing this kind of, I don't want to say useless space, but this kind of Friends drop-off area that is currently a part of the existing porch. So this work includes partial demolition of the retaining wall, a new partial retaining wall that comes around here, and a new panel in this existing window that would act as the new book drop, which you can see here in this elevation. So then we would be able to create this partition in the porch to make sure that the book drop-off area is secure and that people can't just pick up the books that are being returned. And we would have to additionally we can reconfigure some of the HVAC sprinkler and lighting in that area to accommodate that change. Tony, did I miss anything in that quick summary?
No, just that the grade on that 3D view, unfortunately, is a little deceptive. It actually, behind that retaining wall, we need that retaining wall because of how tall the grade is behind that bicycle rack. It's not tall for the sake of being tall. It's a software glitch.
Oh, so this is flat essentially,
Yes.
right, Tony?
Yeah.
So it would be accessible from that sidewalk. It's just a glitch that we're having with our software. But Tony was amazing. He did this in like a few hours. So props to him. Any other questions on the scope of work?
Oh, we should also clarify that because we did sort of add this midstream of when they were doing their cost estimate. That's why we have such a large delta between the numbers. These are sort of ballpark numbers that they gave us based on, there's no specifications for this or anything like that they could work off of.
Right, so there had to be a lot of assumptions here, given this really, really broad range. This is the lower one and this is the higher one, because this was all we gave them, was this narrative here that you're seeing in front of you. That's the approximate values that the cost estimators have assigned to this scope of work. Our next option, I think, was the lesser desired one, but in order to kind of make it more palatable, we included in our scope kind of like a temporary structure that covers 2 very large stainless steel book drops. So the assumption here, although this is sort of a compromise, is that if the 2 large book drops did get overfilled, that they would at least have some protection from the elements if people put things on top of them or next to them. This would include relocating the bike rack, but nothing essentially would change within the building footprint. So this would be all new exterior scope and using the existing alcove that is currently enclosed by the existing retaining wall. So here's a 3D view of it over here. Relocating the bike rack over to this corner. And the values were a little bit closer to on this one. This was about $70,000 for this scope of work,
And
including
this
that shelter and those 2
includes self.
book
Okay.
drops. Any questions on that one? Comments from Tony? Right. Last but not least, this is the simplest solution and obviously the least expensive solution, but I don't think anybody would say it's necessarily the ideal, but this is something that we could implement probably with less disruption and involvement with the consultants. So this would be a new millwork book drop that is 6 feet wide and 2 feet deep that can kind of accommodate more books for a longer closure or a long weekend. Again, the idea here is that it would utilize the existing book drop here, have a protective enclosure over it, so it would discourage patrons from taking books out of the book drop, and an angled bottom to kind of continually move the books that are being dropped off out of the way so that we have more capacity for books. So that was just something that we had wanted to check out, and the cost for that one is about $7,000 to $9,000 in construction. And I think that's pretty much wraps it up. Those were the 3 options that we reviewed.
I'll throw out a comment. It seems to me that the cost of the external book drops is so close to the cost of option 1 that, let me take a step. I think option 1 is better in terms of library operations, I think. Kate, correct me if I'm wrong on that. And it's roughly the same cost, so I don't see why we would want to go with option 2.
Well, the caveat there is that option 2 could be integrated fairly quickly, or relatively quickly into the project, whereas option 1 would require going back to our consultants to reevaluate sprinkler layouts, HVAC, lighting, those sorts of things. So that we think that, you know, the estimate captures that cost, but doesn't necessarily capture that time.
Okay. Any other, so right now, these are costed out as options in the estimates, but they're not in Brian's total project budget.
That's correct. Brian can confirm that. I don't believe they're included in the total project budget at all.
That's correct.
Okay. Is this something that we need to make a decision on right now?
I was wondering what Kate and her staff thought of the 3 options. Not to put you on the spot, but just for your integration.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at the 3 options, I 100% agree with Ed that 2 is so close to the cost of 1. In fact, if things go a certain way, it could actually be cheaper to go 1, but we don't know that yet. So it seems like something we should do once and do it right versus kind of do this option B and it still not be the ideal and spend almost as much money. So I guess that's how I feel on A or B. C, I don't feel like C is an option that would work in any way, shape, or form. I get where we're going with it because it's pretty much what we have now, right? Just a little bit better. But I think it takes up so much of the space on when you enter the building. So we're going to spend all of this taxpayer money on fixing this building, trying to make it something usable. And still when you walk in the entrance, there's going to be something in your way. That doesn't even help us address the problem that we're trying to solve. So I guess that's where I'm at. Is I would really encourage us to explore option A as a possibility, as an alternate. I'm not really sure what the correct way to approach that is, but I think it's probably worth the money we would invest in it on long-term functionality of this building as a library.
I'm gonna raise my hand.
Go ahead, Walter.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I look at those and I think it would be sensible, given the scope of this build. To me, returning your book to the library happens as much as you take them out, maybe more because you might get $3 and drop them off over more times. And that I think as a group we should probably support option A. I agree. I don't know the best way to do that as an add-on or another, but I don't think we need to keep all 3 of these in play and make a decision and move on. That's my opinion.
So it sounds to me like what we should do is keep option 1 as an alternate. We can drop the other 2 from consideration because either they're more expensive, they're not much better, or they're
option 3 could be done without the construction crew, right? You're just building a box. So you get the high school kids to do it at Assabet or something.
So LPA or Vertex, what would it take if we were to decide to do option 1? What would that involve in terms of design work and then later on in the bidding and stuff?
Eric or Mike, would you?
Yeah, I just had to find my mute button. I think we talked about the fact that, we wouldn't be able to get it into the construction documents in time as an ad alternate, because it's not just our work, it's also our consultants. We need to, come to an agreement on fees and programming, make sure that it works the way you're you're like wanting it to work. I would preface all that by saying that I think we're in agreement that option A or option one is the right way to do this. I mean, if you want to have that ability to collect a lot of books and without really impacting the flow through that area, that's the right thing to do, and that solution is the best one. Unfortunately, it's not. We're just not able to get it into the documents and out to bid before, in the time we have allotted to us. We would have to do one of two things. We could present the proposal to you, and we could try and get it into the bidding as a addendum item, and kind of a late to the game scope of work, and ask the bidders to include that as a second ad alternate, so to speak. If that's not possible, if time doesn't allow that, we would have to present it to the contractor as a change order. At that point, you're basically a captive audience. You won't get that competitive pricing that you would with an ad alternate. So if this is the way you want to go, we can we have to start right away and really, after we get the drawings out on mid-December, which is really our target point. I know Mike talked about the bid documents being made available January 2nd, but to get to that point, we need to be finished with all our documents really by the middle of December, so they can be, have a final review and be ready for that January 2nd, after the holiday. We'll lose some time with that as well. So that's the way I would approach it. Ed, would be to, ask the library building committee to vote on it ask us to submit a proposal for that scope. And, I don't expect it would be exorbitant by any means. It's, it's a retaining wall and, some partitions and some fire sprinkler work, but.
So you would be asking us to allocate money for y'all to design it, and then that would come in as a late addendum?
If possible, if we can get it in as addendum, we could handle it that way if time allows. If not, it would go in to the contractor as a change order.
Mm-hmm.
But we do everything we could to get it in as an ad alternate. I know we won't be able to meet the mid-December date, but.
Any thoughts from the committee?
I'm in favor of moving forward and getting this started.
I agree too. I'd rather have it as an ad alternate than a change order. Then we're at their mercy.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of nods. Eric, can you give us a ballpark cost as to what that would be at this point?
I can't right at the moment, Ed. We'll have to take a look at it and get our consultants' feedback as well. Just make sure that they would be able to, meet the schedule we have.
Okay. So it sounds like what we should do then is ask LPA to come up with a proposal for that. We'll vote on that at our next meeting, which will have to be accelerated, and go from there. Does that make sense to the group? Eric, is that enough for y'all to go forward?
We'll start putting a proposal together.
Right.
We'll we don't need a vote to do that.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the book return? Okay, go ahead.
No, I just said no. So
Oh,
sorry.
okay, that's too easy.
Yeah.
Okay, one quick project. Do we have any updates? Anything we need to consider on the HVAC system? And if the answer is no, then we can say no and we go on. I'm hearing nothing. I'm going to assume we go on. Christina, you had a question about the mural. Or
Yes, and I wasn't sure if that was necessarily appropriate for the full LBC, but I did bring it up to a smaller group. Yeah.
okay. And what's the
You want me
Kate?
to bring
Maybe
it up on
I know Kate.
screen?
You were part of the group. Do you want to talk to that? Why don't you if you can share the photo of it just so we know what we're talking about.
You got it. I'll pull it up.
Okay. So I'll say this is a mural on the ground floor, sort of next to the door to the elevator, so it's on the children's level. Let's see.
There we go.
Here we go. There it is.
And so just to give you context, we just wanted to confirm in our drawings right now, we have the scope of work to protect this mural throughout construction and preserve it. And we just wanted to confirm that that was the desired scope for this mural.
Any thoughts as to what the cost of preserving that is? Does it make a difference?
I mean, the cost would be protection during construction as opposed to scope for repainting it.
Yeah.
Or recladding it, for example. So I don't know if Mike or Eric, you would have any idea on the concrete cost to keep it. We just wanted to confirm that it was desired to keep it.
Yeah, I think,
And I think
the cost to preserve it would be minimal. It would be the concern would be is if later in the project it was determined to repaint it, then that would be probably a few thousand to repaint this wall, given the vibrant colors to try and not goes through a new coat of paint. So
okay.
Can anybody
Yeah.
speak to the history of it? Was it drawn by some local person that would be sensitive to it, or is there any history on this?
The mural was done, I believe it was in 2017, and it was a student wanted to do it as part of a class project. So there really isn't any attachment to it. And I don't know if you can see in the bottom left, it's been chipped and it's not really holding up very well. So from my personal opinion, I don't think that it really holds any, I don't know, historic significance or any
Sentimental.
sentimental significance. Yes. So I would actually be in favor of just painting over it.
And I agree with Lynn.
It's funny. I felt like it had been there forever, but on the other hand, my kids are all adults now. I haven't looked at that in years and years. So, but I had the same thought. If there's no particular reason to keep it, we could not have it. And if we want something like that, we can probably get something new and different and maybe even better. So.
Okay, that sounds good. We can change the notes.
Okay.
Okay.
And along that line is where I was going at, is maybe when the project is done, we could have a high school competition or something and make proposal designs and have, make it a celebration event.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And that could be to reflect the new motto, inspire. I forgot the other two words.
Yeah.
shouldn't cost a couple of thousand to paint that one wall though, right? Just 2 coats of Benjamin Moore aura paint should cover it quite well.
I think that Mike was kind of adding the change order factor on top of that.
Okay.
So if it's not in the drawings,
Us, we all go
knows,
down there on a
you know,
Saturday morning.
we
with our
want to just
paintbrush.
own it correctly. Oh, and Eric has his hand up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Eric.
I just had a question, just to go back to the book drop for a moment. So if that were an ad alternate, would that be, you've got to accept alternates in order by priority. So would that then move up to alternate 1 and the storm windows be alternate 2 or not?
I believe it would be alternate 1. The storm windows, we were pretty iffy on whether that would ever have any financial, whether that would ever pay us back. Whereas this would, I think, have an impact on library operations from day 1.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, all right, so that will be the new ad alternate 1. But that was all, thank you.
So that's interesting. Alternates are not just random access, they're sequential.
They are, you've got to decide beforehand, because the whole thing of it is, if you can play with the numbers by taking them in order, because everybody has a different number for the alternates. You can, if you could decide after the fact to take alternate, 3, but not 1 and 2, that might have a bearing on who the actual low bidder is. So
So it's a concern with the bid process that
Yeah.
so you don't game it that way, and one person knows to low bid alternate 6, and
right,
okay,
right.
got
Yeah.
it. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know for us too. So,
Yeah.
It only applies to design bid build chapter 1. If you were with a construction manager, it doesn't apply. Is my understanding.
Anything other project updates? Other building related
Brian
issues?
has his hand up. That's
Oh,
all.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Ed. Eric, to your point, just to add on to that, if this is going to be a late addendum with an alternate, does the addendum verbiage then sequence the alternates for the bid documents? I don't know if that made sense, but it made sense in my head. If your bid documents currently are going to have the storm windows as an ad alternate, and then an addendum is going to come out with a new alternate that's going to be the priority alternate, is that just something we put in the narrative in that addendum?
That's a good question. I think what we'd have to do is we'd have to look at the timing and whether yeah. I think that's probably what you would do. You'd probably handle it as an addendum. You'd change all references to addendum 1 to become addendum 2, and then you would have a new addendum 1, new
Right.
alternate 1. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good point. And you would also want to do it in time so that, you would have to get it out to the filed sub bidders, because there will be sprinkler work, there will be electrical work, it's not just general contract work. So you'd want to make sure that you get it out for the filed sub bid opening.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like it might be fair to say that while you may not be able to get it done in time for the initial bid, it shouldn't be that long after that where this might be done, right? Is that
Yeah,
so that it could go out early in the process, but maybe not day 1.
yeah, I would agree with that, Walter. I think it depends on our consultants to some extent. We need to get them on board, and they have other commitments too. So we just have to make sure they can meet the schedule.
Okay.
Any other building related issues? Okay. Next thing I have is outreach. It seems to me it's time for us to start thinking about outreach in terms of building interest in getting the word out in time for the March town meeting. I know the trustees are going to be talking about that tomorrow because I'll bring the topic up. But any suggestions or thoughts about outreach from this group? And that could be outreach both to voters and to town departments who will need to be working with ultimately. Okay, nothing much at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like we need our numbers before we
Okay.
do too much.
Okay,
Um,
we'll have to, Bob, maybe we can work on another presentation just to have a sort of a 5-minute presentation ready with the updated numbers in case, and then we can use it. Well, you know, a trustee can use it or we can use it or whatever when the opportunity arises. Okay. Great. Do you want to do that? Do you want to get together with Kate or me or whatever? You're on mute.
Sure, I can work with Kate on that, like we did for the October 21 meeting.
Yeah, I figured that sounded like that went over really well. So just a modification of that should do us.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do any of that. I feel like that's partly my job, right? So anything anybody wants to partner with me on to get the word out, I'm happy to do. I recorded a segment this morning for Westborough TV. And I know we have plans to do it again, Ed and I. And yeah, and we have a couple of meetings planned with another trustee to do the rounds in the new year. So again, anybody who sees a good opportunity, please let me know or partner with us on it. I think it's a good opportunity.
Great. I will say I've off and on had office hours, mostly with residents who were not happy with the project. I had one of those a couple of weeks ago with Jody Fredman, and she actually, she feels we could cut the cost more, but she's pretty happy that we're maintaining the budget we presented back in March. So I'm going to continue those from time to time and hopefully pre-address some of the issues that might otherwise come up on the town meeting floor.
Ed, did she mention what cost she would reduce?
Well, basically all of them. No, it's, her initial thing was the fee for LPAA. And, that water, whether she's right or wrong, and I don't think she's right, but that water is under the bridge in any case. So the discussion on that didn't go on very long. I think, talking to her about not needing the handicap ramp in the front and not making the decision to do the slate tiles, that I think got some good points.
Okay, I think, again, some residents feel that if they've had experience with a private nonprofit building, that experience automatically translates and transfers over to a public building, but they don't understand prevailing wage, OSHA 10-hour courses, pre-qualification of all subs and filed sub-bidders, annual certification or recertification of contractors by DCAM. I don't think they understand the cost of that. Plus the union paying union wage rates, not just minimum wage, but prevailing wage. They don't understand.
Yeah, I don't think they do, and that their experience, some of it crosses over, but not the dollar part. So okay. Anything else on outreach? Okay. Anything else? Any other issues from anyone? So the last item is setting the date for the next meeting. And I think we need to have it soon. So I'd like to propose either next Tuesday, the 26th, which is in Thanksgiving week, or the following Tuesday, the 3rd, which is right after Thanksgiving.
I guess the question is, when can LPAA have the proposal? Because we should do it as soon as possible because that's a critical path item now.
That plus the temporary library, which hopefully we'll get some answers on tonight. So, Eric, do you have a preference for that?
I think it would take, my goal would be to get you a proposal before Thanksgiving so that can act. But that would put us like by the 27th, I think.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not necessarily going to be ready for the 26th, so we should plan for a meeting on the 3rd to review that and the temporary library. So those will be the two focuses, and anything else that comes up we can deal with.
What time is the walkthrough on December 3rd at the rec center?
Do I have that?
I think it's 9 a.m. It was 10 and they moved it up to 9, I think.
On Tuesday, 9?
I'm pretty sure.
I think we initially said 10 and then said 9 and they moved up to 10, but it's in the morning in any case.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to attend if I know you had a concern about too many people, but
Yeah. Well, you're the building committee vice chair. You have every reason to be there, I'd
Sure.
say. So. Okay. Yeah. So, Kate, let's one of us reach out to, I guess it's Jennifer who's coordinating that, but whoever is, and see if we can get LPA and Vertex invited as well. Okay. Okay, so our next meeting will be Tuesday, the 3rd of December at 3:30 on Zoom, focused on the temporary library and the book drop proposal. Anything else? Okay, that's all I've got. So I guess this meeting I I'll take a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, I heard a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Yeah, second. Okay, I'll going down the list. Lynn? There's a wave, thumbs up. Walter?
Leslie, yes.
Kate?
Caraccio, yes.
Bob?
Petroselli, yes.
Pete?
Dunbeck, yes.
Eric? I'm sorry, not Eric. Sean? Read the wrong people here. Bill? There's a thumbs up. Mary?
Johnson, yes.
Am I missing any committee members? No, okay, and myself is also a yes, that's Ed Baldwin. So thank you all for your time, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay.